chemicals, those are useful in the parental preparations. As we know that our body is made up of 70% of the water. So that's why the aqueous vehicles are most preferable for the parental preparations, and it is easily available anywhere. So as compared to non-aqueous vehicles, these aqueous vehicles are available at all locations of the earth, and even it is available at very cheap rate. If you want sterile water for injection, it is easily available, and even if the cost is also low. So that's why aqueous preparations are mostly preferable for the parenteral preparations. Water for injection is most widely used solvent for the parenteral preparation. In water, there are also different types of the water: simple water, distilled water, water for injection, sterile water for injection, bacteriostatic water for injection. So these are all the different types of water. So out of this only we can use water for injection or sterile water for injection or bacteriostatic water for injection for preparation of the parenteral preparation. We cannot use distilled water because in distilled water there may be chances of presence of some contaminated particle contamination, and there may be presence of some pyrogen. So that's why instead of distilled water we are always going to use water for injection or sterile water for injection or bacteriostatic water for injection. Water for injection must be prepared and stored in a manner to ensure the purity and freedom from pyrogens. So whatever the directions are given on the container for water for injection, if it is mentioned that the water to be stored at 60 to 90 degrees Celsius or at uh, it is to be refrigerated, means at 5 to 8 degrees Celsius, it means that we have to store this water for injection at that mentioned temperature only. Why to store at 5 degrees Celsius or 60 to 90 degrees Celsius? Because this temperature is not favorable for the growth of microorganism, and that's why we have to store this water for injection at the given or mentioned temperature. Why this temperature is not favorable for the growth of microorganism, that is 60 to 90 or 5 degrees Celsius? At your home you might be experience that during summer season the food get easily deteriorated. You can feel the bad odor of the food. If you keep it out of refrigerator even for 4 to 5 hours, it get deteriorated. You can observe that by means of the bad odor. So why the food is getting deteriorated in summer season especially? Because in summer season the temperature is about 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, and this temperature is very good for the growth of microorganisms, and that's why especially in summer season food or milk, this can easily get deteriorated. And the temperature means in cold condition or at 5 degrees Celsius, again this is not favorable for the growth of microorganisms. That's why if you want to preserve your food for longer time, you can keep it in refrigerator, because the temperature of refrigerator does not allow the growth of microorganism. It restricts the growth of microorganism. So that's why whatever the water for injection you have prepared, you must have to store at the given temperature to ensure the purity and freedom from pyrogens. The most common means of obtaining water for injection is by means of distillation of deionized water. So this is one of the method of preparation of water for injection, that is distillation of deionized water. Another method is also mentioned by means of European pharmacopoeia. This is the method mentioned by the European pharmacopoeia, distillation of deionized water. Also, USP and Japanese pharmacopoeia also mentions the river osmosis as a method of preparing the water for injection. What is meant by reverse osmosis? As mentioned in this last point, USP and Japanese pharmacopoeia permits the reverse osmosis for preparation of water for injection. Generally, what is meant by osmosis? Osmosis means movement of solvent from low concentration to high concentration of the solids. In general, the natural phenomenon which is happening, the movement of solvent. Osmosis means movement of solvent from low concentration of solutes to the higher concentration of solutes. If we are going against the osmosis, that is called as reverse osmosis. Against the osmosis means movement solvent from higher concentration of solute to low concentration of solute. If we are going to force the liquid to move from higher concentration to low concentration, then that is called as a reverse osmosis. So if you are going to obtain the water for injection by means of reverse osmosis, you can use that as a solvent for parenteral preparation. The next one, microorganisms are the most common contaminants found in the water. Along with the microorganisms, dissolved organic and inorganic substances are also responsible for the contamination. So these are the three main sources of contamination of the water. First one is microorganism, second one is dissolved organic substances, and third one is inorganic substances. So ions can be easily removed by means of distillation, reverse osmosis, deionization, or the combination of these processes. If there is any presence of inorganic compound, that can be easily separated by means of distillation or reverse osmosis or by means of deionization. And if there are some particulate matters are present, then this particulate matter can be easily separated by means of membrane or depth filter, or in some cases charcoal beds are also provided to remove the organic materials. Next one is the filtration, chilling or heating or recirculation of the water are used to reduce the microbial growth to prevent the pyrogen formation. So the three main contaminants, especially microorganism, dissolved organic and inorganic substances. In order to separate the microorganisms, we can use the charcoal bed. We can use the filters, membrane filter likewise. To remove the dissolved organic substances, you can use the charcoal bed, and to remove the inorganic substances, you can use the distillation or reverse osmosis process or also deionization process. To inhibit the microbial growth, water for injection must be stored at either 5 degree or 60 to 90 degrees Celsius, as we have already discussed. To prevent the microbial growth, we can store this water for injection at either 5 degrees Celsius or 60 to 90. Means the least temperature which is not favorable for the growth, and also the highest temperature which is again not favorable for the growth of microorganism. The next, ESP also lists the sterile water for injection and bacteriostatic water for injection, which unlike water for injection must be sterile. So unlike water for injection, the sterile water for injection and bacteriostatic injection must be sterile. Bacteriostatic water for injection must not be placed in container larger than 30 ml. If we are going to add some bacteriostatic agent in water for injection, then the highest volume or the larger volume allowed, which is 30 ml. It should not be more than 30 ml. Why? You might be saying that the patient who are hospitalized in hospital, uh, they are receiving the medicines through some large volume parenterals. The volume may be up to 500 ml or up to 1 liter. And if we are going to add bacteriostatic agent in this much quantity of large volume parenteral, suppose this bacteriostatic agent requires to add 0.5% or 1% of the total volume of your container. And if we are going to consider 1% or 0.5%, it may be up to 5 gram to 10 gram. If we are going to consider the 1 liter of large volume parenterals, and if large volume parenteral containing this much amount of bacteriostatic agent, then it will be toxic to our bodies, and that's why highest limit of the parenteral is given, that is 30 ml. The highest volume should not be more than 30 ml. If we are going to consider 1% or 0.5% of 30 ml, then it will be around 0. ml. So that is very least quantities of the bacteriostatic agent if we are going to consider the volume 30 ml. So that's why bacteriostatic water for injection not to be placed in container larger than 30 ml. If you are going to increase the volume of container, the required amount of bacteriostatic agent will also goes on increasing, and the highest concentration of bacteriostatic agent may be harmful to our bodies. So that's why we are going to keep the volume of this bacteriostatic volume water for injection up to 30 ml. It should not be more than 30 ml. This is to prevent the administration of large quantities of bacteriostatic agent, as we have discussed, such as phenol. So that will become toxic to your bodies. So that's why the limit of bacteriostatic water for injection is only 30 ml. It should not be more than 30 ml. Then other aqueous vehicle that may be used in place of sterile water for injection for reconstitution of administered drug includes dextrose 5%, sodium chloride 0.9%, and variety of other electrolyte and nutrient solution. Generally, this aqueous vehicle, that is water for injection, sterile water for injection, and bacteriostatic water for injection. So these are generally used for reconstitution of the drug. Reconstitution means most of the parenterals are available in powdered form. So it does not mean that the drug to be administered only in powder form. So this powdered drug to be mixed with the sterile water for injection. So then you are able to prepare a suspension form, and then this suspension type of parenteral is allowed to administer to the patient. So this is called as reconstitution. Means the sterile water for injection requires to mix with the powdered drug at the time of administration, and this procedure of mixing the sterile water for injection with the powdered drug is called as reconstitution. So the other vehicles which are available for reconstitution is dextrose 5%, NaCl 0.9%, and other electrolyte and nutrient solutions. Next class of the vehicle is non-aqueous and mixed vehicles. So as the word indicates, these are non-aqueous in the nature. So as these are available in non-aqueous form, they are necessary to stabilize the drug. These non-aqueous solvent, these are used to stabilize the drug such as barbiturate, and they are readily hydrolyzed by the water. Means in this case, only non-aqueous solvent we will use only in such cases in which your drug undergoes hydrolysis by means of water. So in presence of water, suppose your drug undergoes hydrolysis, only in such cases we are going to use non-aqueous solvents, because these non-aqueous solvents such as oils, so these are generally causes irritation at the site of injection, because as we have discussed, the non-aqueous, these are mainly aqueous vehicles. Why we are mainly favoring the aqueous vehicle? Because our body is made up of 70% of water, and again the water is easily available at anywhere, any places, and again the cost is also very less. So that's why aqueous vehicles are mostly preferable. As compared to that, non-aqueous vehicles are not easily available, their cost is also very high, and again they may causes irritation at the site of injections, and that's why this is the second choice of vehicle. So most probably we will go for the aqueous vehicle. If in case only when your drug undergoes hydrolytic degradation, hydrolysis, then only we will prepare the non-aqueous type of vehicles. So non-aqueous vehicles must be tested to ensure that they exhibit no pharmacological action, they are non-toxic and non-irritating, and they are compatible and stable with all ingredients. So before going to finalize the non-aqueous solution, you must have to test that the non-aqueous solvents are not having its any pharmacological action. It is not having any pharmacological action, and again this non-aqueous solvent must be non-toxic and non-irritating, and it must be again compatible with all ingredients used in the parenterals. Then only we will use the non-aqueous solvent. A major class of non-aqueous solvents are the fixed oils, and the most commonly used oils are corn oil, cottonseed oil, peanut oil, and the sesame oil. These are the most commonly used oils in the parenteral preparations. So because of the fixed oils can be quite irritating when injected, may cause sensitivity reaction in some patients, and the oil used in production be stated on the label. Whatever the oil we are using for the preparation of parenteral, that must be stated on the label what type of oil is used in the preparation of the parenteral injection. Suppose we are preparing the diclofenac injection, then what is the non-aqueous solvent utilized in the preparation, that must we have to mention, whether we are using cottonseed oil, peanut oil, or the sesame oil. Whatever the oil used to dissolve that diclofenac sodium, you have to mention that, because most of the peoples are having sensitive reaction, hypersensitivity reaction to the particular oils. So that's why we have to mention the name of oils on the final container. Then sesame oil is most preferred because it is stable as compared to the other oils. Except the light, except light, it is stable in all environmental condition. So that's why sesame oil is most preferred as compared to the other fixed oil, and thus usually meet the official requirement. The fixed oil must never be administered intravenously. So whatever the parenteral preparation we are preparing using the non-aqueous solvent like sesame oil, it is not to be administered intravenously, and it is restricted to only intramuscular route. It is to be administered only in muscles. Excessive unsaturation of oil can produce the tissue irritation. So that's why highly unsaturated oils we are not going to use in the parenteral preparations. Benzoate may also used to enhance the steroid solubility in oils if desired. So in some cases we are going to add the benzyl benzoate so that the solubility can be increased. Water miscible solvents are widely used in parenteral to enhance the drug solubility and serve as a stabilizer. Water miscible solvent, just like the ethanol. Ethanol is miscible with the water. So this type of solvent we can use in parenteral to increase the solubility. And other common solvents which are used to increase the solubility are glycerin, ethyl alcohol, propylene glycol, polyethylene glycol 300, and the examples of injectable product formulated with the non-aqueous solvents are diazepam injection USP and phenytoin sodium USP. So these are some injections which are prepared by using the water miscible solvents. And high percentage of ethanol will produce pain on injection. So that's why we have to take care of that. Although ethanol is useful to increase the solubility, but we have to keep in mind the limit or the percentage of ethanol we are using in the formulation. We are not supposed to use the highest concentration, otherwise it may cause irritation